Okay, this is the third lesson in chapter 2. This is all about what's called the percent proportion, and basically we're going to do a lot of cross multiplying in this lesson. Okay, lots and lots of cross multiplying. So stick with me. We're going to solve a lot of good percent problems coming up really soon. Vocab, we've got 3 important vocab words and the percent proportion itself. So let's begin with the percent. Percent is the number with the percent sign, okay? I know that we have other definitions for the word percent. We talked about it in chapter 2, lesson 0. It's part out of 100. But here for this lesson, I'm happy with the number with the percent sign or the number with the word percent because we need to be able to know how to pick out the percent in a problem. Part. Part is the new or the changed number, okay? New or changed number. Remember that. That's going to be very helpful to us. It's the new number or the number that we changed into something new. And the whole is our old number or the original number. Okay, a lot of times we think about part and whole as, the whole being a whole pizza and part being a slice of pizza. And that's true, that is part and whole. But there are other ways we can use this concept of part and whole, and that goes along with old and new. Okay, the old number is the whole, the new number is the part. Percent proportion, very, very easy right here. You're going to love this. This is really nice and easy for us to do. Part over whole equals percent over 100. You've been excellent cross multipliers since chapter 1, probably since 5th grade and 6th grade, but really excellent in chapter 1, so we don't have any troubles with cross multiplying. The hardest part about this is actually picking out which number is the part and which number is the whole. Okay, it's the hardest part every single time, and I've got a way to help with that. And it's on the next slide. Very, very important note. You're going to see how important it is in just 1 second. Always remember, percent of the whole. This is in your note packet. It's got some quotes around it. I need you to write this information in the red box in your note packet. Percent of the whole. Say it 400 times. Percent of the whole, percent of the whole, percent of the whole. When we read word problems with percents, a lot of times in the setup of the problem, you'll see this phrase show up, percent of, and then whatever comes after it is going to be the whole number. Okay, so that's going to help you find the whole number and the part. Okay, so let's get started. 55, here's our first example. 55 is what percent of 200? Did you see? Percent of the whole. That's the first thing I'm looking for, percent of the whole. So what this means is the whole is 200. So if I've got a container and it holds 200 ounces, if that container is full, then I've got the whole thing if I fill it up. So the whole thing would be 200. And we're asking 55 is what percent of 200? So let's say we fill that 200 ounce container up to 55. That's not really a good location for that line. Let's move that down a little bit. There we go. That's probably closer. There we go. So 55. So we only fill it up 55 ounces. Not a whole lot of fill in there, but we fill it up 55 ounces. So what we're asking now is what percent full is that container? We've got 200 ounces that the container can hold. We fill it up 55 ounces, and we want to know what percent does that 55 make up. Okay, so we've got part, percent, and whole that we have to figure out here. So remember the first thing we talked about, percent of the whole, percent of 200. 200 is the whole container, the whole number. And then we have 55, and we have what percent. Well, what percent tells us that that's our question. That's what we're trying to figure out. We don't know the percent. We're going to try to solve the percent. So there's our variable x. And 55 is the part of that container that we're looking for. 55 is how full we filled our 200 ounce container. So the part is 55, the whole is 200, and we're looking for the percent. So our proportion is part over whole equals percent over 100. And I got that right from the notes on the last slide. Okay, part over whole equals percent over 100. So 55 out of 200 is what percent over 100? And we cross multiply here. 200 times x is 200x. Don't forget your equal sign. 55 times 100 is 5,500. And we are going to divide both sides by 200 to solve for x. Okay, so a little trick that I learned a long time ago, and you might remember this from 5th grade. Since we have a double zero here and a double zero here, we can cancel them out. And we're really just taking 55 divided by 2. And 55 divided by 2 is 27 and 5/10. You can check my math on that. I'd be really happy if you did. 27 and 5/10. Don't forget we're solving for a percent, so we're going to put our percent sign here. Okay, so final answer. 55 is what percent of 200? 55 is 27 and 5/10%. So it's about 27 and 5/10% full if we put 55 ounces out of a 200-ounce container. Okay, example number 2, 150%. Oh, look at that, 150%. So there's my word percent, so that's important. Of 12 is what number? Okay, so percent of the whole, I see it here, percent of the whole, percent of 12, percent of the whole. So when I start finding my percent, part, and whole, I'm already ready for what my whole number is going to be. Okay, percent of the whole, percent of 12, so the whole is 12. And we have 150%. So my percent is 150. And we're trying to figure out what number would that be. So let's see what that looks like visually. So what we have is a container here, and our container holds 12 ounces. And we want to know what's 150% of that container. So if we filled it up and then we did 50% more. So 100% means, okay, 150% here. 100% means that we fill it once. So here's our full container, all 100%. We're going to fill it up here. Okay, and that's our 12. So that's our whole container full, right? So the whole is 12. And we're going to fill it up 100%, and then we're going to fill it up another 50%. Another 50%. So we're looking for what's the amount shaded there in red. Okay, so part over whole equals percent over 100. Our part is our unknown. So we are going to use the variable x to represent the part. The whole is 12. The percent is 150. And 100 always goes underneath the percent. So x times 100 is 100x. Don't forget your equal sign. 12 times 150, you can check my math here, but it is 1,800. And we're going to divide both sides by 100 to solve for x. Nice one here, nice math. Again, we end up with those 2 zeros up here and 2 zeros down there, so we're going to get rid of them. 18 divided by 1 is 18. So if we were to fill up our container one whole time, 100%, and then 50 more percent of another container, we'd end up with 18 ounces in that canister. Okay, what number is 36% of 3,000? We'll do this one without any drawings. We'll just pick out our part, our percent, and our whole. The easiest one to pick out for this one is the percent, because you see the percent sign hanging out there. So 36%, put your 36 in the percent place. So remember that phrase we've been looking for, percent of the whole, percent of 3,000. So 3,000 is our whole number here. And that means, once again, we're looking for the part. So if we were to draw this one, we'd have a big container. Maybe it holds 3,000 ounces, and we're filling it 36% of the way full. We want to know how many ounces that would be. Okay, so it's part over whole equals percent over 100. That's part is X. Our whole is 3,000. The percent is 36. And we always have 100 underneath the percent. So we cross multiply. X times 100 is 100x. 36 times 3,000 is 108,000. Okay, 108,000. And to get the x all by itself, we divide both sides by 100. Sorry for that zero being in a weird spot here. There we go. So again, dividing by 100 is nice and easy. We end up with x equals 108. So if we were to fill that container 36% of the way full, we would end up with 108 ounces. All right, I know we're getting long here. Here's our last one. We have one word problem I want to look at. It says, in one night, Alvin, sorry, I thought we were changing this to Avon. Avon, this one's all about you, man. But we're going to say Alvin because that's what the book says. In one night, Alvin read 15% of his 300-page book. How many pages does Alvin have to read to finish his book? Okay, so remember that magic set of words there, percent of the whole, percent of the whole, percent of the whole, percent of 300. So the whole number here is 300. We have our percent is 15%, and the part is unknown. Now, I want to be very clear on this. If I set up my problem like this, I'm going to figure out how much Alvin has already read. Okay, he has read 15%. So if we're going to do this problem, we're going to figure out what 15% is. We're going to figure out how much he has already read. But the question asks something a little bit different. The question asks, how many pages does Alvin have to read to finish his book? So if we figure out how many pages he's already read, we're going to have to do one more step to figure out how many pages are left. So keep that in your mind as we're doing this problem. This is not over after our first step here. Okay? So part is X. The whole is 300. The percent is 15 over 100. And we are going to cross multiply. X times 100 is 100x. 300 times 15 is 4500. And we have to divide both sides by 100 to solve for 15%. Okay, so we get x equals 45. So this only tells us that Alvin has read 45 pages. The question asks, how many does he still have to read to finish the book? So we have to do one more step here, and that's take the 300 pages minus the 45 pages he already read, and we get 255 pages left. Okay, so don't forget, we still have to worry about reading word problems and seeing what they're asking us in order to solve them. Okay, we're going to hang out here. I'd like you to go ahead and do your practice problems. Be reading them very, very carefully because you might see one or two more like this example where we have solved for our 15% but still have to use it to solve another question. Okay, do your practice problems, bring any questions you have tomorrow to class.